Hey everyone, my name is Kristen. I'm currently in my second semester of nursing school, and today I wanted to discuss tips that I think are most beneficial for pre-nursing students. So if you're interested, just keep watching. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Okay, so when it comes to nursing school, for the very first tip that I would think would be most beneficial is reflecting on why you want to become a nurse. Now, you really need to do some soul searching and really put into perspective what your goal is coming out of nursing school. Nursing is a very fast-paced environment. It requires active listening, showing empathy. I mean, really think how you want to be treated if you were in the hospital or if you were going to a doctor's appointment. You want to make sure that you treat the patients just like you want to be treated when you're a patient yourself. Although nursing is a very highly recognized profession, a rewarding career, as well as the moment you get your RN license, there are so many diverse opportunities where you can continue your education. It is not all that glamorous either. I know there are ups and downs to every job. However, I was specifically working at a cancer hospital near me where I got close to many of the nurses, and you do get to see the aspects of nursing that you may not see anywhere else. It does have an aspect of a desk job to it. There's tons of charting that needs to be completed before you go home. There's tons of paperwork to fill out, and sometimes your patients just add extra conflict, which adds extra stress to your day. However, as nurses, we can't take these things personally because these patients just aren't feeling well and don't mean any harm by it. Moving on to my second tip is getting involved. Regardless if you want to shadow or if you want to volunteer, I think this is a great way to figure out if nursing is right for you and get that one-on-one experience to see exactly what a nurse does in a day. Definitely don't be afraid to get to know the nurses that you volunteer with or that you're shadowing. Ask them any questions you might have. These are such great mentors even before you get into nursing school because they're able to answer all the questions for you at this time. And on top of that, I feel like this is a great networking opportunity. If you really get to know the nurses that you're working with, they may be able to point you in the right direction with not only resources, but maybe some job opportunities in the future. So really get to know the individuals you are working with when you shadow or when you are volunteering. For my third tip, take studying seriously in undergrad. Form your good habits early on because the moment you get to nursing school, you cannot mess around with your studying and your time management. From personal experience, I study for an exam at least 1 week before, and that's not including all the notes that I take before an exam as well. So you do have to factor in that extra time. To put in perspective, when you take a 3 credit hour course, you are supposed to dedicate 2 to 3 hours for every 1 credit hour that you're taking. So that's anywhere from 6 to 9 hours that you should be studying just for one course outside of class during that week. But just get into the habit of looking at your material, even if it's just 15 minutes a day, just so you start working your way up to studying little by little every day. Now, you don't need to study every single day. I do take 1 day off a week where I don't do any schoolwork, and that's just so I can make sure that I keep up with making sure I'm taking care of myself. I'm lowering my stress levels by doing this. I do not spend every waking moment of my time studying in nursing school, but it is a huge part of my life because I am not working right now. I do take school as my full-time job, so you do have to take that into consideration as well. Make sure you work on finding that balance. You want to make sure you're focusing on school, but you also want to make sure you have that social life as well because you do need that time for yourself. And on that note, make sure you put in your time to really focusing on anatomy and physio. You really need a good foundation in those classes if you want to move forward and be successful. Now, if you're like me and you haven't taken anatomy and physio for a while, you may need to brush up on the basics before you start nursing school or even while you're in nursing school. But if you have a good foundation before nursing school, I promise this will help you be even more successful throughout your studying. All right, for this next tip, I really just need to be honest with you. You really need to be aware of the expenses when it comes to a nursing student. Going into nursing school, I was a little bit oblivious to how much money I was actually going to spend. Thankfully, I had a little bit of savings put away, But I really do suggest that if you're able to save a little bit of money before you start nursing school, or if that's not an option and you have to use financial aid such as student loans, just make sure you budget for that in the beginning. I remember everything that I had to purchase, so I'll just quickly go through the list. But I remember I had to get a parking pass for school. That was about $325. I know that some schools may be more expensive, some may be a lot cheaper than that. I had to buy a nursing uniform, which is my scrubs. I bought 2 sets just because I do have clinicals 2 to 3 times a week, so I wanted to make sure I had enough time to do my laundry in between, so I got an extra pair, and those costed about $120. I did have to get nursing shoes, which I tried to find the cheapest yet most comfortable ones, and I spent about $45 on my shoes. And I also had to get a stethoscope, which we know those are a little bit pricey. I did get bandage scissors. I had to get a watch with a second hand. And I also had to make sure that I had school supplies to use for the semester as well. And then I found out that the bundle of books that I had to buy at school, which I thankfully decided to opt with renting them through Amazon, but the bundle itself was $600. And I think I rented most of my textbooks for half of that price. I also found out we had to do a background check through Castle Branch, which I know many nursing schools use this. And this is just a company that collects all your information, including your background check and things like your immunizations, any titers that you may have to get done, a drug test, as well as any documents that you may have to sign. And this is all just for clinicals. So if you start clinicals your first semester, you may have to do all of this even before you start your clinicals your first semester. Thankfully in my program, we don't start clinicals until second semester, but still I feel like this is something you should be aware of. And if you do start clinicals your first semester, just know they may have you do tons of paperwork as well as a PowerPoint or some type of orientation or modules that you need to complete before you even get to the clinical site. Now I just want to focus on that immunization process real quick. Now I know this will differ from state to state, but I did have to show that I had antibodies to Hep B, varicella, and the MMR. Now that whole process was pretty costly. Now you do have to make sure that you have some form of health insurance. And even if you do have health insurance, you still have to pay for the doctor's visits as well as some of the lab co-pays that may come back to you a little bit later when you do get your blood drawn to make sure that you do have the antibodies. And if you don't have the antibodies, like I didn't for varicella and Hep B, I'm currently going through the immunization process. Thankfully, that is covered on my insurance though. And last but not least, before I forget, you also have to make sure you're CPR certified, so that may cost a little bit as well. Now, I hope that kind of just gives you a quick general overview of what expenses I am talking about. And for the last tip, I definitely think this is an important one, and that's just making sure you have a good support system inside as well as outside nursing school. Now, you want to make sure that you have those individuals in nursing school who you can rely on, really confide in, and vent to. They are the ones that understand exactly what you are going through as they are going through the exact same thing you are. It is so important to make sure that you do try to find people in nursing school who you can relate to, make those lifelong bonds with, because these are going to be some of the greatest friends that you have coming out of your program. And it's nice to know that you can have study groups from time to time. Study groups definitely help me make sure that I reinforce that information, and it really helps you think from a different perspective. There are some times where I'm so close-minded on one concept, when I hear it from somebody else, I can see it from a different lens, and I'm able to grasp that concept better. And when it comes to a support system outside of nursing, that is just as important because you need to make sure you have friends outside of your program. Like I said earlier, you do need to be taking time off from nursing school because these programs can be very stressful. You need to make sure you're taking care of your mental health, you're taking care of yourself, you're enjoying the company of others, doing things not related to nursing school. And when it comes to nursing school, you are able to keep those friendships, you are able to have a relationship. Don't be afraid, just know that you want to make sure that you have people who are supportive around you and know that you may not be available to them 24/7. And for me, it's so nice to have that support system outside of nursing school. Even though they may not understand what I'm going through, they are able to give me an unbiased opinion whenever I may need additional assistance as well. And those are the tips that I have for you today. I really wish I would have known these before I started the application process. If you have any questions about nursing school or you have any recommendations that you'd like to see on my channel in the future, don't hesitate to leave them down in the comment section below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And I also want to wish you good luck on your nursing journey.